Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Stories That Inspire Us podcast. My name is Janice Mololo, your host, and today we're going to be talking money and finances, and we're going to dive right on into it. But first, of course, I want to introduce my amazing guest, Candice Bakx-Friesen. Welcome so much to the Stories podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. Candice, I think a lot of times people, I don't want to say are afraid to talk about money or finances. And actually, let me just back up just a tad. I know that you, of course, are very passionate about helping people reach their financial dreams. You are highly motivated and you have a passion for helping others not only succeed in life, but of course, business. And with all doing that, you, of course, are very successful as a mother of four. You are a top performing realtor, money coach, and speaker. Do you have time to sleep?
A little bit. Sleep's overrated. Yeah.
Gotcha. So back to the conversation, of course, about money and finances in particular. I think, of course, this time of year too, as we start to, in the US, as we start to gather our tax information, for our taxes, of course, that are due on April 15th. Actually, this year, I think it may be the 18th. I want to go back a little bit about why, most of us, the answer is so obvious, but why your opinion as an expert in this field is it so important for people to really pay attention to their finances and maybe have a coach?
Yeah, money is a topic that, it's this taboo topic that we don't really want to talk about, or it's not socially acceptable to talk about. We don't sit down and say, hey, how's it going with paying your bills? Not something that comes up. But yet it's part of everything in life, right? And the decisions that we make around money are typically emotional decisions. And that is what's tricky with this too, because we know that we're supposed to be saving money. We know we're not supposed to be buying all the things that we buy that, make us feel better. So whether it's, good emotions or tough things that we're going through, we tend to react through spending money. So it's definitely something that's a very important topic to cover, and also that you get a really good handle on your finances personally, and especially if you're running a business.
Right. And of course, as you were describing that, there's such an emotional attachment with when we buy something, even though we know, what, okay, if I want this, maybe I should hold back a little bit, maybe put a little bit aside, whether it be a new purse, new pair of shoes, whatever it may be for anyone. But we tend to, I don't want to generalize this, but as a society, like purchase on a whim.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll pay the bill off when I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's trickier now, right? If we think of, my grandparents' era, you had to go drive over to the store and buy it. Maybe they don't have any copies anymore, so you're just not buying it. Or maybe it's not available in your market and things like that. But it was a little bit easier to say, well, wait a minute, like, do I really want this book? Because that means I got to go drive over there. Or by the time I make it part of my trip, maybe I've thought about it for a week and I'm like, yeah, I don't really want that book anymore. But nowadays I want it. I click on Amazon. I don't even have to enter my credit card. They already have it saved, and it better be here in a day or two, right? We want what we want now. And so that has just added a whole new element to make this all trickier. And again, people feel like, oh, why can't I get this under control? Because it's hard. It's hard for people. And it's okay if you're struggling with finances, because most people are.
And you bring up such an amazing point. Of course, you mentioned Amazon, just a click of a button, boom, boom, boom. Sometimes I think in certain areas you can have same day delivery. And then, of course, there's those type of deliveries where you don't have to even be home. They have a special code to, put it in your condo or garage, and it's so easy.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
the problem. Yeah.
right, it's very easy, yet it's very hard to sometimes take a step back. In your opinion, as a money coach, for instance, when you start working, maybe it's a couple, or maybe a woman entrepreneur who's like, okay, now I'm starting to, make some money in my business. What would you say? And I know this has probably changed throughout the year, but what is the percentage, for instance, when you receive your paycheck, or when you take a draw from your LLC or whatever it may be, what is the percentage that one should put aside for savings and taxes?
Yeah, that definitely depends on how much you're taking out, if you're incorporated, or how much you make as a couple, or as a single at a wage job or salary job. So I think that kind of goes back to figuring out what you can make work in your budget. If you're incorporated, definitely you should be figuring out with your accountant throughout the year what makes sense. And don't wait till the end of the year. So if you can learn anything through this podcast, is like, don't wait. Number one, don't wait to invest. Don't wait. Start today. Today's the only day that's better than yesterday and 10 years ago, right? So get started on some of these things, take the action steps, but also make sure you're making a plan, So even something as simple as what we've been using as an example of, buying a book or buying shoes. If you have some decision-making factors around your purchasing, then you're going to have a little bit more willpower, right? So again, about the book, okay, I see a book I like, I might take a screenshot, and then I have to wait 2 weeks before I buy the book. So I have to have these rules for myself. Otherwise, it's just really easy to spend, right? I'm a real estate agent. I don't spend a lot on vehicles. So because I go through them, because I'm always driving. And so I have a decision-making rule around buying a new vehicle, right? It's got to be this much money or this brand of vehicle. So when I'm going to go buy a new vehicle, I'm not just going to go pick some expensive car, or I'm not going to be swayed by a salesperson, because I already know that I've got rules around what I'm going to buy. So some of these sorts of things are going to help. And the more that you can really make some of those decisions around your purchases, I think it helps. Whether that's in a business, it's sort of the same type of thing, right? Whether you're buying inventory or how much are you spending on marketing. If you have a plan, you're much more likely to stick to it than to just spend on a whim again.
You mentioned, having rules for yourself. What, in your opinion, should be the number one rule when someone is getting started? And you had mentioned, start now, start today, don't wait.
Yeah.
What other than that would be like a number one rule that you coach your clients with?
I think you have to know what is most important to you, because we can't have it all, right? So if we're looking at different types of investments, I don't sell investments, but whether you're thinking, well, do I want a rental house? Do I want to invest in stocks? Whatever it is, once you make a decision, or maybe you narrow it down to two, now you got to get educated and figure out which makes sense for you. But also, how much risk do you want to take on? How much, of an interest rate return are you looking for? Those are some things that when you meet with somebody who does sell investments, they're going to do some of those assessments with you. But the sooner that you can start, the better. So if you can put more into savings and investing than dollar-wise, then that's more important actually than the interest rate. But we tend to focus on, where can I get the highest interest rate without taking on too much risk? But is there a way that we can cut back a little bit, or are we focused enough on making sure we're making more income every year? So maybe you start a side hustle, maybe you haven't applied for a raise in years and years. Maybe that's kind of the action step to take. So everybody's so different in their finances. And so it's really kind of an individual approach at looking at what's most important for people.
And I love what you said about, the questions like what is most important? How much risk do you want to take? And I think too, as far as like people looking for that specific interest rate, obviously, of course, to talk to a money coach or financial advisor, somebody who is well versed in that area, of course. But, I'm thinking back to a conversation I had with my parents when I think I was 16 years old.
Yeah.
And, I had to go with my parents to the bank, open my savings account, and they had me do a checking account. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. Let me just take a quick sip. I do apologize. I don't know what's going on with that.
It happens.
Okay, I'm back. But I remember, them talking about the interest rates, and my dad set up some envelopes for me.
Yep.
And to a certain, I had an envelope. Okay, this is my, my fund money. This is, envelope are for my school books. This is for whatever it may be. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking that for the person that's just like, oh my God, I don't know where to start. And why not start out with the envelopes?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the more that you can keep finances simple, the better. And so that's a huge thing, is just to set little goals for yourself. So maybe I'm going to start with saving $50 per paycheck, and it's going to be automatic. As soon as that paycheck comes in, that money's gone. So I've set some boundaries for myself again, right? But $50 is not going to get you there for retirement. So over time, you're going to need to, again, make some more adjustments, but you've seen some instant success, and that's important, right? In anything you want to do in life, you want to see those small little steps of improvement, and that's what helps you keep going. So we don't do an overhaul and change everything in a day. Nobody wants to do that, right? No different than I want to eat better and I want to exercise. Well, you don't go 0 to 100, right? You slowly make little steps of improvement, and then you celebrate what you've done. So start with a little bit of investing, start with a little bit of savings, wherever it's at for you in your finances, and make some tweaks in your spending as well.
Now, do you, and this is more, I think, of a personal question, but in reference to your rules and your boundaries, do you have what some may refer to as a slush fund? In other words, here's my slush fund over here, and I don't touch that unless I've kind of gone through your decision-making factors.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So you can call it all kinds of different things, but there's always these miscellaneous things that come up, right? So my kid's invited to a birthday party. Well, we got to get a gift. So there's always going to be sort of that, the discretionary fund, I suppose, or slush fund that you're going to need to cover some of these other expenses. And those ones, again, can be tricky because they sometimes come up on a whim. Somebody calls and says, hey, you guys want to go out to a movie with us? Well, do we have the extra funds or not, right? So you're going to have that, but a lot of it too is looking at the bigger things, like, do we need to live in this big of a house? Maybe downsizing makes sense. Do we change neighborhoods? Do we move to another state or province in Canada here? So there's decisions that we can make. Sometimes we feel like our hands are tied. But there's more decisions and more options that we have than we think.
I like how you said there's more decisions and there's more options. And I think those options in relationship to finances are really vitally important, especially when you have a significant other or a spouse.
Yeah.
What have you seen in as far as the real estate market when let's say a new couple who's buying their first home? Because I think this is so important because I know you had mentioned Canada, but I know in the United States, with the interest rates are like just going sky high. What is the rule of thumb for saving? Is it still, I think I recall it's like 30%, for a down payment. It may be even more by now.
Yeah, so here in Canada, you can put less down, but you're going to have to have an insured mortgage. And I believe that's the same in the US. It's just, we all have different names for these things. But if you're not putting as much down, then you can have an insured product. You're paying for that, obviously, for the insurance. So in Canada here, it's called CMHC, and you pay a premium that's added onto your mortgage. So you can buy a house with as little as 5% down. I think that in Canada, our banking system's always been quite strong. So I think in general, people sort of trust that what our guidelines are makes sense for their budget. But whether you think that's true or not, you really should still run your numbers. So if you're thinking of making a change, even if you're buying your second house, right, and you're upgrading, or you're going from, like you said, renting to buying your first house, you really have to crunch those numbers and figure it out, right, for yourself, because everyone spends money differently. Some people never go out and they eat at home all the time. The next person, they never eat at home. They don't even need a kitchen. So you really have to figure that out for yourself. And again, working out that budget. And everybody hates the word budget, but think of it just as a plan, right? If I was going to go drive across the US, I wouldn't just get in my car and get started, right? I would have a plan. I'd figure out some of the details. So create that budget. It's a fluid plan. It's always changing. So you need to be continually looking at that and thinking, okay, how am I doing, right? So when we go through an inflationary period like we did last year and into this year, you're not surprised, right? Because you see the numbers changing. So you know you need to make some adjustments. So that's all it is. I think we overcomplicate things, but the more of a plan you have, the easier it is to stick to it, and you don't have the buyer's remorse and all of those things that come with it. And typically, if you're really stressed out about money and you go spend more money, you have a bigger problem and you're more stressed out, and it just adds and adds and adds to, it snowballs, right? The whole problem. So get control of your finances as quickly as possible.
And you would mention, obviously, the word budget. Like, nobody wants to hear that word. To me, it's almost like the word diet.
Yeah.
Like, I cringe when I think of that word diet, but that really makes sense. Like, to think of it as a plan and kind of create, even if you have to sit down, maybe it's something as simple as starting out, sitting down and reviewing your checkbook or whatever it may be. Okay,
Yeah.
I spent, holy crap, I spent $20 at Starbucks, like, be very honest with yourself, because that you can see, if you're not sharing that honesty with yourself, how are you going to get to make your budget?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And a lot of it too is, again, trying to uncover for yourself the why, because you really have to understand why you're spending that money, right? So if I have to, if in my mind, every time I walk into work, I have to be holding a Starbucks cup, is that because it makes me feel better? Is that because I have to impress people around me? Like, what is it? Because maybe it's the taste of the coffee, but you can make the coffee at home. If it's really just about the coffee, you can make it for cents on the dollar, right, at home. So there's usually something about it, right? It's making you feel better. You feel you have to impress your boss, whatever it is. And then when you think about it from that perspective, okay, do I really need to spend hundreds of dollars on this, or thousands even in a year on coffee, right? So there's lots of these different things. It could be, again, how much I spend on clothes or whatever it is, going out with friends. Maybe I can adjust some things and not go as often, right? Maybe I can say no once in a while. So, but you have to know why you're doing this, right? Or it's really hard to change. So something has to become more important. I can't deal with the debt anymore. I have to change, or I have to feel ready for retirement, and I'm getting stressed out that I'm retiring in 20 years and I don't have a plan, or I don't really have any retirement money set aside, so there has to be something that it becomes more important.
And I think we just froze up a little bit here. Candice, are you still with us? Okay. We'll just give this just a moment. Are you back?
Yeah.
We lost you for a second.
Yeah, so you need to have something that motivates you to change. Otherwise, you'll stay in status quo.
Candice, when you're working with a client, as far as what is the process of working with a money coach such as yourself?
Hmm. Yeah, so one of the first things that we do is we look at again, usually there's a reason people are coming, right? So it's a struggle, it's I don't know anything about investing, I got to figure this out. So we try to deal with whatever that struggle piece is first. And if it's an education thing, then we do, go over that, right? So different things to think about with different types of investments and for them to, again, go over that. And then it's really just looking at, again, at the money that's coming in, where it's going out, and making a plan for whatever their goals are.
Okay. And when have you ever been in a situation, I guess is the right word, kind of the right way to ask this question? Have those conversations gotten heated? Not heated in the sense of maybe spouses are arguing in your presence, but do they come to the realization that, yeah, this is going to be hard, but I really need to focus. We need to focus as a couple, and work out this plan. Have you ever been in those very tense situations?
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes one person in a relationship comes, with their arms folded, like, oh, what do you think you're going to do? Right. Or I'm not listening to this, but I got dragged here. So yeah, again, in a couple relationship, you have two people who grew up with very different money perspectives, usually, or they were taught different things in their households. Then you come together as a couple. Most people don't really talk about money before they get into a relationship. It's all about, the romance and the Cinderella, right? Story. And then suddenly it's like, oh, okay, now we got to figure out finances. Some people think you need to have one bank account. The next person's like, that would be the day we'll have one bank account. So everybody looks at it differently. So it's really figuring out as a couple, how can you come together?
Mm.
If it's separate finances, then we have to look at, how each person is managing their part of the overall household budget. But yeah, definitely. Some people are like, I'm not changing anything. I'm happy with where we're at. We don't need to save money. I don't care. So again, it's like anything in any relationship, whether it's a business partnership or, a personal relationship, you got to work together. You need to compromise and come together as a couple. So.
Oh, most definitely. And I just want to segue over and just welcome all of our listeners currently on the Wisdom Audio app. Thank you so much for being here today. And, I love the Wisdom app, so many amazing connections through this app. Candice, do you have time to, maybe if we ask one of the guests who's listening, to maybe ask you a question or two before we sign off?
Yeah, sure. Not a problem.
All right. Oh, that would be awesome. So if anyone has a question for Candice and you'd like to come up, we have time for one guest to come up and ask Candice some questions. Candice, what is on the horizon for you? I mean, I kind of said jokingly, when do you have time to sleep?
Yeah. I know I have a lot on the go. So, but it's really important to me to have that piece of giving back. And, selling houses is definitely, you help a lot of people, but, the money piece is just, I think it's a legacy thing. It's, when you can figure out your finances, I teach teenagers. So if they can figure out their finances, as soon as people don't have the money struggle as much, now you can really open your eyes to possibility. And so that might be, serving more in the community, helping people out. If you're in struggle, it's really hard to see past where you're at. And so, yeah, just to have people have their finances figure out is such an important piece to their overall well-being. And yeah, so that's why I work on that. I've got a book coming out this year, and so that's exciting. and yeah, just continue to kind of do what I do, sort of where I'm at with everything.
You know what, as I was just kind of, looking at my notes here, and I'm thinking, top performing realtor, money coach, speaker, I hope she's writing a book. And then
Yeah.
you said you have a book coming out, so congratulations about that. When is your book expected to come out?
I think it'll probably be ready by late summer, early fall. I'm just finishing up edits, and then I've got to get it over to the publisher and put together. So pretty close to being done. Yeah. Yeah. So it's on mindset. I think that's, again, kind of the first step in any change that you want to make. So it's really about mindset and just 9 principles to success in life and business. So just really talking about different aspects of life. So it's not as money directly related to money. And then the second book is being written. I'm about 4 chapters in. That'll be a little bit more of a money book. So
Wow, working on your first book, it's going through edits, and you already started your second book.
yeah.
Of course you have no time to sleep. Oh my goodness. This has been such an amazing podcast. Candice, where can our viewers and listeners get in contact with you?
Yeah, feel free to find me all over all the social media stuff. My website is investorsmarts.ca. CA is for Canada. So investorsmarts.ca.
Wonderful. And of course, I will make sure that all is in the show notes. I want to thank you again for such an inspiring story, because I think, as I may have mentioned, when we talk finances or when we talk money, there's always some sort of a stigma associated with it. And if we can get over that struggle, if we can just kind of, take a step back, and as you said, of course, start planning today. If you haven't started planning, do it today. A lot of great insights. I can't thank you enough for being here today. I hope you will definitely consider coming back.
Yeah, that would be great.
Wonderful. As I mentioned, finances are sometimes hard for everybody, and especially the last couple of years, it's been tough. You had mentioned so many different avenues which you can start to really organize. You can, get to that part where you're giving back, because making money is not a bad thing. How we give back and how we save for ourselves is inspiring part.
Yeah.
So grateful to you. And remember, everyone, if you have a story to share, it's that important. Please go to my website and register as a guest. Of course, you can send me in a voicemail directly on the website, or of course, a contact form. My name is Janice, the host of Stories That Inspire Us. And today I was inspired by amazing guest, my guest, Candice Bakx-Friesen. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Candice, and have a great day.